I know from my own personal experience that men really do go unheard in the world when it comes to mental health. So when I was going through a particularly devastating and traumatizing post-relationship phase as a teenager, I was completely lost over what to do, especially because it was just too late to talk about it with my ex-partner. It's extremely common for young girls, especially teenage girls, to regret losing their virginity to the person they chose. This phenomenon is of young people regretting having sex with each other is really common and almost entirely an anomaly that happens among girls, both in straight and gay or lesbian relationships. And it's usually the boys in some of these conflicts that often have to deal with weeks or months of also, this bitter and criticism and gossip behind their backs at the same time that they're going through this phase. This criticism and gossip that just overwhelms them with confusion and outrage and self-hate. I went online and searched all over for videos explaining what a person should say or do when they discover that their verbally abusive ex-partner or otherwise regrets sleeping with them or regrets losing their virginity to them. But all I kept finding were self-help videos for women and girls on how to deal with the fact that they regret losing their virginity to someone, to some guy, not the other way around. And I didn't find a single helpful video on what the teenage boy, especially the quiet one who cannot speak up for the life of him, should do or say when he finds out that his ex-girlfriend regrets sleeping with him, and he thinks he was doing everything right. What does he say? What does he do? How does he let go? This is what we'll sincerely cover in today's talk. So let's go over it. First and foremost, from what I've observed in all the high school relationships I've seen, kids should just not get involved in exclusive relationships or any kind of dating until they're at least 18 years old, somewhere around there, 18, 19. All I've seen in people's high school relationships is just confusion and pain and traumatic catastrophes that follow the brief phases of pleasure and joy and excitement. So much unnecessary pain. The pain is unnecessary because when you're a teenager, you're not fully matured, so you can truly make a problem out of anything at that age, the most insignificant things. And you think that the problem is really serious. It hurts you. And it's real at the time because that's the perspective you have as a teenager. But then years go by and finally, when you grow up, you realize that there was no problem. You were just being an immature teenager. Or maybe there was a problem, but it really wasn't that big of a deal, and you made it a big deal. But by that point, it's too late. The damage is already done. I'm not saying it's too late to start a new life or get a career or anything like that, but what I'm saying is that you shouldn't let a really insignificant problem that happened when you were so young take your youth away and affect you over the long term. Affect you over many years, 5, 6, 7, 10 years kind of thing. You can avoid this. Some people laugh at these kinds of talks about young people or for young people because they think that it's all just so immature and nothing matters at that age. And well, sure, of course, teenage problems are usually very petty and insubstantial, but At the same time, they're also some of the most painful in life. Why? Because you're not an adult when it happens. Adults, in contrast, can handle problems. Adults can argue, get divorced, and then move on after some days or weeks. But teenagers are so fragile, so perfectionist, so insecure. You can't say anything to a perfectionist teenager without affecting their self-esteem and making them question their worth, you know? So if you're watching this and you actually are a teenager, I really don't recommend dating or seeing anyone until you've reached the age that I've mentioned. Then when your partner narcissistically abuses you, for example, or cheats on you, or gossips behind your back, you'll be able to handle it. You'll be able to communicate or let go properly. Now, when you find out that your ex-partner regrets losing their virginity to you in particular, you have to keep in mind that women are very emotional and sentimental, generally speaking. And if you combine this with perfectionism, the perfectionism of a teenager, then this makes virginity a really big deal to them. Most girls don't want to just get rid of their virginity to whoever and whenever the desire and opportunity comes. They're often more sentimental about this. So what I'm saying is, when she regrets losing her virginity to you, it's usually not about you. Of course, it would be really unfair and upsetting if a girl was in a bad mood and one day just carelessly said to her friend that she regrets sleeping with you, and just because you're weird or awkward or you burp loudly in public. But thankfully, this is usually not the underlying reason. And if you were that bad, she probably wouldn't have dated you in the first place or slept with you, you know? It's usually not the underlying reason. The real reason is because she either lost her virginity to a stranger on a whim, and you were that stranger, and you found out, but you probably don't even know who she is at this point. The next thing is that you're a bad person. Maybe you did mistreat her. Maybe you are at fault in this situation. Maybe you teased her a lot, or criticized her, or you were aggressive around her, or kind of bullied her. Who knows, right? Or what's also very common is that you just weren't right for her. In other words, you were the stranger in her world. You two didn't have a good connection. She didn't feel connected to you. So now she thinks, God, why did I sleep with this guy who I couldn't even hold a deep conversation with? Why this guy? We were so attracted to each other, there's so much excitement over nothing, the surface level traits. Who doesn't go through that? So many people just date each other because they have the hots for each other. They're infatuated. They have nothing in common, but they start dating each other and then the girl regrets it. This is extremely common. That's another reason why you guys don't keep in touch anymore, right? Besides the resentment and anger that you hold, or that maybe she holds as well, there wasn't anything there to begin with. That's why there's no reason to stay friends. This was my case. That was her reason. So you don't have to take this personally. You don't have to take this personally. If it's just because she felt like she wasn't with the right guy who was a good match that she felt connected to, so she basically slept with somebody who was not a good choice, almost like a stranger at that point, you don't have to take this person out personally. It's just a compatibility problem. And don't start thinking that you could have changed yourself to be more compatible with her, to make it work out. You could have made it work out. No, because that's not how it works. You'd be disrespecting yourself doing that. You'd be a people pleaser. You just have to be yourself in this world, right? You can't please everyone. If you weren't compatible with each other, that's just the reality. Don't need to change it. So if you weren't the bad guy in this situation and you didn't mistreat her in any significant way, then this is her problem. It doesn't have to be yours. That's how she feels. It's her problem. Now, some people just don't stop overthinking and exaggerating these situations, and sometimes their imagination runs wild. They blow things out of proportion. So I'll tell you right now that no, you don't look dumb to people for knowing a secret, this secret that she has about you, but not pointing it out, not pointing out to her that you know. It's not going to make you look that much smarter than just because you know some secret, just because you know something. Nobody knows that you know, and that's fine. This isn't like some terrible rumor designed to spread around, to be spread around and make you look bad. That is an insecure fantasy. That's a wild fantasy. So as much as this circumstance can really overwhelm us and confuse us and outrage us, we feel like it's not fair, we feel underappreciated, you have to keep in mind that you weren't supposed to find out. Right? She didn't want you to find out or get offended by this. She wanted to keep it to herself. It's not her fault that you got affected by this. It's actually the messenger's fault for telling you something that you really didn't need to know. You would have been better off not knowing, right? So here are your options for moving forward. If you think that it's not too late to try to obtain closure with your ex and you haven't incessantly bothered them already, or if it's been a while and you just want to address this quickly and then so you can move on, then do that. I always try to encourage people I always say that you should deal with your problems as soon as possible, but when you're young like this, you just can't handle problems very well. You can't communicate, you miscommunicate, you linger, you hesitate. Speaking on the phone or in person are the best ways. Speaking on the phone is more courageous and sincere than texting. Relationship problems can be hard to explain, but good communication is absolutely crucial. And you don't have to be extreme about this. I know it's hard to talk about sometimes. You feel like blowing up, or sometimes you think maybe you got to keep silent. But no, you don't have to show a lot of anger and scream at the person or argue. And at the same time, you shouldn't just tough it out and say nothing to save your face. Because if this situation is really bothering you, then you need to get it off your chest. So just talk. All you have to do is speak your mind. It's simple, right? Don't be perfectionist about it. It's better just to get as much out there. But keep it as simple and as short as possible, especially when there's confusion and uncertainty in a situation. The best thing to do, if you're uncertain, is to just ask. Ask what and why. Because accusing and blaming or saying nothing at all are all harmful. And don't think that you're supposed to know everything, and that if you ask why, she's going to think you're dumb, you look dumb, you're supposed to know things. No, this is harmful to your well-being. You have an important situation to talk about, you're uncertain about it, you have to ask. You have to clarify. You could say, so-and-so just told me that you regret having sex with me. Is this true? What's going on? then simply say, you could simply put it like this: what's this regretting sex thing about? Why is this? You could add, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not sure if you meant it. Maybe you were in a bad mood. Is this regretting sex thing even about me? Or is it just because, is it the connection thing? Is it because we didn't have a good connection? Because I wasn't the right person for you? We weren't compatible? Now, if you feel that it's better to not bother your ex-partner about this and to not talk about it and to let it go, letting go is always a good thing to do if you can. This is a spiritual channel here, so I'm always going to encourage that. But if not knowing why is still eating at you on the inside, then you have to meditate. That's what I did. I got my answer from meditation. And when you get the answer and you understand it, just leave it at that. You might start thinking, well, maybe we'll cross paths someday, and then we're going to want to bring it up with her, so I should keep holding on to it, and I should write some more stuff down and prepare it, and maybe I'll try reaching out to her anyway. No, you don't need to do this. If you have the answer, then you have it. You don't need any more answers. This is the best way to let go and heal. If you keep holding on to those other options, you're just going to draw out your suffering. You're going to keep holding on. You're going to keep suffering and making things really difficult for you and the other person. And it's also kind of greedy to hold on to so many options in life when you only need one. So there you go. Good luck with this. I wish you happiness and healing. Sabe sata suki hontu.